Welcome to the latest edition of RPPV News, bringing you stories from across the Mornington Peninsula. I'm Catie Sharp, and our top items for this edition are: we have the latest on the coronavirus outbreak from the Peninsula perspective. The IBAC inquiry leads to a call for transparency by Shire councillors. Good news for Peninsula wine growers as the January bushfires have minimal effect on the harvest. A pea plater learns a definition of the word serious. We have a special RPPV report on erosion at Rye foreshore, and free native plants are on offer to Peninsula residents. Now for the full stories. Peninsula residents are anxious about the coronavirus outbreak as the number of people affected rises. The Mornington Peninsula Shire is drawing up contingency plans to deal with the potential crisis. CEO John Baker announced that the council is easing planning permits and local laws to allow retailers to take overnight deliveries. Mr Baker told MP News that the Shire is determined to work with the retail sector to ensure supplies. The Shire will review its position at the end of March, when it is hoped consumer behaviour will have steadied and normal supplies resumed. Precautions are also being taken by medical surgeries to limit the spread of the virus. This signage was on the front door of a Peninsula surgery, while a Frankston Hospital sign asks patients who have recently returned from overseas to alert the triage nurse. A testing station for the virus has been set up in the emergency department of Frankston Hospital. The next closest testing station is in Box Hill in Melbourne. If you suspect you may have the virus, do not call 000. Instead, call the hotline on 1800 020 080. In other Shire news, a motion has been passed to clamp down on councillor expense claims. Driven by Councillor David Gill, the new process will ensure a more transparent and accurate report of any claims made. Councils across the region have been sensitive to such matters following revelations from the ongoing IBAC investigation of Catie Council. There is good news for Peninsula wine growers. According to Olivia Barry, the Chief Executive of the Mornington Peninsula's Vigneron Association, only about 4% of this year's harvest is expected to be affected by smoke and ash from the summer bushfires. This was helped by the counter effect of sea breezes and because the fires occurred before the grape skins had softened. 6 people have been charged after they trespassed into a Flinders property and deliberately ran down and killed 10 kangaroos. The 5 men and 1 woman are aged between 20 and 22 and are from Mount Martha, Rosebud, Hastings and Cranbourne. They have been charged with criminal damage, aggravated cruelty to animals and willful trespass. They will face Dramana Magistrates Court on the 9th of April. A pea plater who was caught on a Dramana freeway travelling at 166 kilometres per hour while double the legal alcohol limit told Frankston Magistrates Court he didn't have a lawyer because he didn't think the charge was a serious one. Jared Turner of Coronella pleaded guilty to drink driving, driving in a dangerous manner and not displaying P plates. When breath tested, he blew .117. The legal limit for a full licence is .05. The limit for a P plater, like Mr Turner, is 0. Magistrate Gerard Lethbridge responded to Mr Turner saying, "Are you serious?" and explained that prison was a real possibility for the charges he faced. He postponed proceedings until Mr Turner could find legal representation. After the break, we have a special report on erosion at Rye foreshore.
Battery World now open in Mornington.
We know batteries. We know our 75 D23Ls from our DIN 65 LHs. And we know which is best for you. We have the range and a spark no one else can match because we live and breathe batteries. Those beautiful boxes and cylinders that power our lives and our passions. That's why we're the batteryologists. We're Battery World.
Battery World Shop 1, 43 Mornington Tyre Road, Mornington.
I know how fast grass fires can spread. You'll want to escape, but you shouldn't drive. The smoke is blinding. And you'll block roads for emergency vehicles. Just walk 2 streets back and check warnings on the Vic Emergency app.
Authorised by the Victorian Government.
Welcome back. Frustrations have erupted again between locals and coastline authorities with more beach and vegetation erosion on Rye foreshore. The area of concern is between Rye Yacht Club and Ozone Street. In a joint project between Mornington Peninsula Shire and Delwip, the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, another timber groin was added in October 2018. Locals and holidaymakers are claiming that the groin has caused further loss of beach area and the uprooting of banksia trees. The RPPV news team went down to Rye foreshore to investigate and to speak with a holidaymaker and chair of the Rye Community Group Alliance, who are concerned about the future of the coastline. Deborah Ma, RPPV news reporter, begins our special report from Rye foreshore.
There's been a lot of controversy and discussion surrounding beach and vegetation erosion on the Mornington Peninsula foreshores. I'm down on Rye foreshore where local residents and holidaymakers are concerned about their beach. The Mornington Peninsula Shire and Delp, Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, say they are monitoring and maintaining the area and that there is no problem. Long-time holidaymaker to the area is Andrea Federico, who joins me to tell us the changes she has seen over the years, and something has to be done now. Thank you for joining me today, Andrea. Now, we're standing on Rye foreshore and you've been a long-time holidaymaker down here for many, many years. Tell us what it was like all those years ago.
Oh, well, I've been down here since I was about 2. And when I first came to Rye, we didn't have any vegetation. It was this beautiful white sand from here all the way up to what is now the bike track. And then over the years, what's happened is the vegetation has gone in, which has been a good thing because, to protect the beach. And the local campers have looked after this area for all of the time, the 50 years that we have been down here. I guess the dismay for us this year was when we arrived and we set up our van and, got excited about the 6 weeks we were about to have again, and we walked down our usual track. We were absolutely distraught and I was really upset because I came down here and found that the beach that our kids had grown up on and now grandkids are growing up on was actually non-existent anymore. And all of this beautiful vegetation and the banksia trees were all dead. And the only thing that had changed between that Christmas and this Christmas just gone was the groin that had been put in there. And it's almost like all of the sand was fine to the groin and then all of this has just been eaten away to the point where we couldn't sit on the beach this year at all. We've got a lot of families that stay on this beach up at the campsite and we all had to separate. Kids couldn't play cricket anymore and our beach, we couldn't even come down here after dark and sit and watch the sunset anymore because if it was a high tide, we were just sitting in water.
Now, I believe that you have been in touch with Delp and also the Mornington Peninsula Shire with the issues that you're facing here. What has their reply been?
Initially I wrote to them before Christmas because that was when we'd set up and we were absolutely in shock. And to begin with, I did get a response from the Mayor and he actually said that he would have somebody look into it and give me a call, which they did. But basically in that phone call, they did not take any responsibility for what was happening.
So they were passing on to Delp?
Yes, they actually said that it was Delp that was dealing with it, and they gave me a contact, but basically wiped their hands of it. And then once we spent time down here over the 6 weeks, I sent them more videos of what happened when we had a northerly wind, what it looked like for us as campers sitting on the beach, and to my real disappointment, I had people, the councillors, because I didn't just send it to Sam, I sent it to a lot of councillors, just delete it without being read.
So when you came down here and you saw what was happening, what did you tell them that needed to be done? Does that groin need to be removed? What needs to be done now from your point of view?
Well, I mean, one of the first things that needed to be done was the track that they say is not a designated track, yet we know it's been used for at least 40 years by all the locals as well that come across from Safeway. that track was covered with all of the logs, all of this dead vegetation, and so it didn't have access anymore.
And that's through the erosion. That's through
the erosion. Yeah,
sand moving.
Yeah, and they said that's not their responsibility. This is natural vegetation, and that if we remove it, we will actually be fined for doing that. So that was our initial discussion,
right,
I guess.
So with the what needs to be done now, I think what you've suggested is maybe that groin be taken away. This is a man-made issue.
It
we're
is.
saying,
It
isn't
is.
So what do they need to do?
Well, this has only happened in the last 12 months. And I think for safety reasons, the first thing they need to do is actually clean up the beach. Because even that tree that you can see behind us,
yes, the Banksia
at
tree.
Christmas, we watched little kids climbing on that. There were sharp edges. People were pulling off branches because of safety issues. So this is a real safety issue at the moment. So the first
fire
thing,
issue as well.
Well, fire is actually something we're really concerned about because we have had people light fires on the beach, and now that this is so dead because of the erosion, in a heartbeat this would go up, and so would all the caravans that are at the other end. So just from doing our own research, if that groin wasn't there, then the waves would not be doing what they're doing. And when you actually Google that and you read about what the purpose of a groin is, this groin is doing exactly what you would expect it to do. It's preserving the sand on that side, and it's destroying the sand on this side. It increases the erosion, which is what is distressing us.
Michelle Cheers, chair of the Rye Community Group Alliance, joins me now. Thank you, Michelle. You too have seen many changes down here on the Rye foreshore.
Yes, Deborah, particularly in the last 5 years. I mean, I think that with what Andrea has been saying about the groin, I think that it comes down to a simple matter of old methodology being used when lots and lots of other changes have sort of taken place.
And can you go through some of those changes from your point of view, from the community group point of view?
The biggest change has been the intensity of the winter storms. I mean, we've always had severe northerly winter storms, but in the last 5 years they have been particularly violent storms. So those winter storms have been compounded by man-made structures being put in place, such as the groin here. It's also been compounded by additional works with the boat ramp, the new boat ramp expansion that occurred. It's been compounded by the ramps that go out from the boardwalk that was put in. All of these structures have an impact when wind and sand combine with hard structures. The groin behind, just watching the wind there, creates an absolute vortex, and which is why that huge Banksia, which was perfectly healthy 12 months ago, was uprooted during these winter storms. And it's probably time for DELP and the Shire to think more laterally than what they have to date. I mean, locals have been sort of put down and treated a bit like village idiots by being told that, oh no, it's just sand movement, it's natural sand movement. The beaches never looked like this. I mean, in times past there was sand movement with the winter storms. Sand would go, sand would come. That's what we're being told. That is not the case anymore. You only have to look at the contours of these beaches to know that in the last 12 months, particularly since these hard structures have been put in place, how much they've changed. I mean, Rye had the most beautiful stretch of white sand with glorious views that many, many thousands of people enjoyed each summer. Now we're just left with a mess, a total mess.
So there's been a lot of structure here that you talk about. Now they had the new boat ramp.
Yes.
Further down, what we're looking at now. We've also got the rock groin that's been there for some years, maybe 10 or so years.
That's right.
Then the new groin behind us, which has been just not even 2 years. And
Yes.
there's a third groin down near where the yacht club is, the Rye Yacht Club. So there's been a lot of activity with
Yes.
groins, and it is spoiling the aesthetic of this
Totally,
beach.
totally spoiling the aesthetic. And I think when they put in the groin, on this particular patch of beach, they did not take into account the other hard structures that were further down, which includes the ramps, the beach access ramps coming out from the boardwalk, the bollards, the 18 bollards that they had to put in because they'd miscalculated the drop of the ramp. All of them add as extra structures for sand movement. And if you see them during a winter storm, you can see sand flying and swirling sort of everywhere. And it really is a tragedy. So I don't know why, given that this is also a worldwide problem, erosion, ferocity of storms, it's not something peculiar to Rye. And there's whole bodies of research from overseas that suggests that soft structures are going to be the best way to deal with this in the future. So why you would put in additional hard structures knowing that is just beyond belief.
Now, DELP and the Shire say that this is a joint venture down here.
Yes.
Yet when you talk to one group and they say, sorry, it's not our problem, and then you talk to the other group and they say, sorry, it's not our problem. So it's still really stuck in the middle, isn't it? And this is what you're stuck with.
Absolutely stuck in the middle. I mean, Rye Community Group Alliance put in a formal complaint in July last year. We've met a couple of times with people from the Shire. We also had written to DELP before this work started saying that they needed to reconsider, that they needed to talk to local people who actually knew what was happening with these beaches. The Shire has just not responded over what's happened. DELP just ignores your emails, so it's not a good outcome really.
This special report will continue next week with a follow-up interview with Del Whip and local Labor MP Chris Brain. The Mornington Shire planning meeting this week passed a motion of support for a local wildlife hospital proposed by the Wildlife Protection Council. The Greens Bush section of the Mornington Peninsula National Park near Cape Schanck is being considered as a possible site. While focus has been on the welfare of the dwindling number of koalas on the peninsula, the state government and Parks Victoria are being asked to help establish a hospital for an injured and ill wildlife. Councillor David Gill told RPPV this will relieve current pressure on wildlife rescuers who were inundated with requests for help during the recent bushfires. Sorrento has been chosen as the next location in the rollout of plastic beach matting as part of Mornington Peninsula Shire's Disability Action Plan. Made from recycled materials, the matting will make it easy for large mobility chairs to get across the sand and to the water. There are free Indigenous and native plants on offer for Peninsula residents at the Briars in Mount Martha next month. Starting on the 4th of April, residents can choose 2 plants from the Shire's nursery at the Briars. Just bring proof of residency. And finally, Rosebud's annual Kite Festival was held last weekend. RPPV was there to capture the colourful event. And now for the weather with Lisa.
Lisa Lenoble with the Mornington Peninsula 6-day forecast this Friday the 13th of March. Well, let's take a look at this week's weather and beyond. Today being Friday the 13th, we'll see a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 27. Mostly sunny morning, very high chance of a shower in the afternoon and the evening, and the chance of a thunderstorm in the afternoon and early evening with possible heavy falls. Winds are going to be northerly, 25 to 40 k's, increasing to 35 to 55 k's in the morning, then shifting cooler southwesterly, 35 to 50 k's in the afternoon. On Saturday, we'll see a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 19. Cloudy, slight chance of a shower, most likely in the morning. Winds will be southerly, 35 to 50 k's, tending southeasterly, 30 to 45 k's during the morning. On Sunday, we'll see a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 20. Partly cloudy, winds southeasterly, 25 to 35 k's. On Monday, we'll see a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 23 degrees. Partly cloudy, the winds will be southeasterly, 25 to 35 k's, turning easterly, 25 to 35 k's during the morning. On Tuesday, we'll see a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 25. Partly cloudy, winds will be east to northeasterly, 20 to 35 k's, tending east to southeasterly, 15 to 25 k's during the day. On Wednesday, the 18th of March, we'll have a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 26 degrees. Partly cloudy, winds north to northeasterly, 20 to 25 k's, tending north to northwesterly, 20 to 30 k's during the day. I'm Lisa Lenoble. Thanks so much for watching on RPPV. I'll see you next week.
Now to our host on the coast with the most, Muzz with the Surf Report.
Welcome to this week's Mornington Peninsula Surf Report. It's a rapidly expanding week we've got in front of us here, so there's one good thing that happens: we can still all go surfing. We might be in lockdown, but no one's going to stop us surfing. So there's some pretty good waves around today, although the front's several hours away, so if you get the opportunity, this makes it to air early, get down, get a surf in. Then we got a couple of days of onshore, but Tuesday, Wednesday of next week is looking very good for a surf on the beach breaks again. Perfect size, 3 to 4 foot. Then towards the end of next week, a bit of a bump in the size of the swell at last. We might see our first autumn swell towards the end of the week. So good week to go surfing, put all your viruses behind you, and you know, nothing better than flushing the system out with a good old surf. Disabled surfers, just keep your eye on the Facebook page for that. It may be cancelled. We're just waiting to hear what the government's advising us today. So other than that, have fun, go surfing, and don't worry about anything. We'll be still here. We may be in a different location on the beach next week. Surf report will happen.
You can catch RPPV out in the community this week. Come say hi to us on Sunday at the Mornington Peninsula Cricket Association semi-final. And that's all from our team here at RPPV News, serving the community with stories that matter to you. Keep watching and tell your friends. Bringing you the news from coast to coast across the Mornington Peninsula, I'm Catie Sharp. See you for the next edition.